This sounds really crazy, but it's only 21 Emmy Awards. Who has 21 Emmy Awards? Isn't that weird? I have to start by taking off my Elmo watch and putting it out here. What do I have, 45 minutes about? I take this watch off because several years ago I was talking in Israel, and I walked into the room. Can you all hear me okay? Okay. I walked into the room where I was supposed to talk to these people, and I said to the man who had booked me, and I said, well, how long do you want me to talk? And he said to me, well, we have you booked for 4 hours. I said, 4 hours? And he said, well, you know, there's only one Down syndrome parent group in all of Israel, and people have come from very far away to hear you speak, and we took the room for 4 hours. So I said, well, okay. So I put my watch down and I started to talk, and 4 hours later, I had covered about half of what I wanted to tell them. So I promise I won't go on for 4 hours, but I keep this watch out here to kind of keep me on track. So if I'm still going in 4 hours, you know, drag me off and send me home. So it's Jason's 40th birthday today. I can't really believe it. But he let me come and be here with you. So I have to go home and take him out to dinner tonight. And so what am I doing here? It's because amazing, we share this amazing experience. A couple of weeks ago, I had never heard of Rett syndrome. But we share this unique experience of this sisterhood, brotherhood experience, which is so similar, this kind of welcome to Hollandness. And the more I've read about what you guys are experiencing, it's not so different, even though what I went through was very different in some respects from what you have experienced in your lives. But the living of it is really almost identical in a way. I'll explain. I'll tell you a little bit about my life and you'll understand. When Jason was born 40 years ago today, I was not particularly old. I was 34, and so somebody had offered me an amniocentesis, by the way, and I said no thanks. I was not in what they considered the high risk range, and I'm not sure what I'd have done anyway. But anyway, it was a second marriage for both me and my husband, my late husband at the time. And we had every reason to expect that this was going to be a, perfect baby. And so he was born, and within a couple of hours, this doctor made every possible mistake you can think of. First of all, he took Charles, my husband, aside and broke the news to him by himself. He didn't tell us together as a couple, which is what you're supposed to do. And he told Charles, and I'm going to use a term which I have promised myself I would never use again, but I will use it for the purpose of, I guess, shock value. He said, your son is a mongoloid, he said, which we don't use that word anymore. He said, this child is going to be permanently, severely retarded. He will never do anything. He will never sit, stand, walk, talk. He will never read or write. He will never be able to distinguish you from any other adults. He will never have any creative thought. My advice to you is to send him away to an institution immediately before you become attached to him. Now, I mean, how does an obstetrician think that you start the attachment to a child when he comes out of you? I mean, what did he think you were doing for those 9 months? You know? But anyway, he said, send this child away before you become attached to him, and go home and tell your friends and family that he died in childbirth. Then he left my husband to come home and come back and break this news to me. So my husband, Charles, says to this guy, he says, all right, he says, maybe my son will never grow up to be a brain surgeon. Maybe all he'll ever be is a goddamn obstetrician. So Charles came upstairs and he broke this wonderful news to me, and he said, now we have a child. Instead of being the world's brightest, most talented, most, wonderful child, this is a child whose major accomplishment in life is that he's going to start out small and end up large, and that's all he's ever going to do in life. And what do we do now? So we spent the next 3 days crying. And among other things, they brought in pills for me to dry up my milk because they assumed that I was going to send this child away. And so naturally, I was not going to nurse this child because they didn't want me to get engorged, and that's very painful, and da-da-da. So, okay, I never got a chance to breastfeed, which I would have liked to do, so forget that. So on the third day, there was a social worker who came in and said, would you like to consider there's something very new, it's very controversial, it's very experimental, and it's called early intervention. I'm talking 40 years ago. This is very, very long time ago. But it's very new and very experimental. But some people believe that if you really work with these kids and give them a very intense, stimulating environment, and you give them a lot of input and stimulation, and that some people believe that perhaps they can be taught to do some very, very minimal things. Perhaps they could be taught to stand, or maybe walk, or maybe feed themselves. And would you like to consider possibly giving it a try? And that was the first thing that made sense to us, that you don't send your child, your flesh and blood, after 9 months. You don't send your child away without at least giving it a try. So you try it. And if after maybe 6 months or so it's so heartbreaking and disappointing and horrible as the doctor predicted, at least you could sleep at night knowing you gave it your best shot, okay? So we decided that we would take Jason home and invest a little bit of our own time and energy in this child. So we brought him home, and we decided to stimulate the heck out of him. And, we tore down the bland wallpaper in his room, and we decided to surround him with stimulation, and we put up this blinding wallpaper of flowers, red and green and purple flowers in his room, and I hung, instead of a mobile over his crib, I put up 3 mobiles over his crib. And I got some springs from the hardware store, and I hung these great big things. There were things always going up and down in his room, and you practically needed a machete to go through his room. There were so many things, over his, there was, the stuff going on. I had music playing all the time, and I was talking. The doctor said, oh, we took him to a place. I heard about this place, and when he was 10 days old, I took him to the place where this early intervention program was, and I'm standing in front of a door that has on the front of it, it says, Mental Retardation Institute. Well, I mean, I'm standing there frozen in front of this door. I'm not supposed to go into a place called Mental Retardation Institute. I'm supposed to be standing in front of Gifted Child Institute. You know, that's what my life is supposed to be. But no, so Charles comes and he sees me with this 10-day-old child frozen in front of mental retardation. He grabs me by the elbow and pulls me in. Well, the doctor there held Jason up in her hand like this. He was like a noodle. He was like a wet washcloth. He had no muscle tone whatsoever. And she said, "These are my favorites. He's going to be great. He's going to be wonderful. He's going to read. He's going to write. He's going to..." We looked at each other. We said, "This woman's crazy." But she said, no, you're going to exercise his muscles, you're going to exercise his muscle tone, you're going to do, and she told us all the exercises we were going to do, and we're going to stimulate, surround him with color and surround him with music and talk to him, don't stop talking to him. So we did all these exercises, and I had his changing table next to these big flowers on his wallpaper, and I kept saying, "What do you talk to a brand new baby about, after all?" So I kept saying to him, "See the flower? This is a flower. It's red, it's green, this is a flower." So finally, when he was about 4 months old, one day I'm doing all these exercises, and I'm saying to him once again for the 800th time, I'm saying, "See the flower? This is a flower." And he looks up at me with these great big eyes, and he goes and with his little hand, and he goes, boom, like this. And he puts his hand right in the middle of a big red flower. And I don't know, maybe he had a gas pain, maybe he was just stretching, or maybe, I don't know what it was. But to me, it was like he was saying, "Okay, Mom, I got it with the flower. Could we please move on to something else?" And that was a seminal moment in my life, because it said to me, and this is why I'm talking to you guys, it said, I am not a vegetable. I am a person. I have a brain. There's something in here. We can communicate. I can learn. I am worth the investment of your time and your energy. And we're going to do this together. That, my friends, was the moment that I made the commitment to my child. And that is, I'm getting choked up here, but that is why we are here together in this room and together, and why I relate to you and the struggle and the journey that you are on with your children. And even though I started, in a way, on day 1 or on day 4 months, and you are starting at wherever you are, because there's a person in there. And I am so blown away by what I have learned just in the last few weeks or months since I was introduced to Rett syndrome, which I literally knew nothing about until very, very recently. This new business about your eye gaze technology and what you guys are learning on a daily basis, and the potential that what's going on with you and your kids, and the new horizons that are opening up for you and the challenges that you meet is so thrilling. It's thrilling to me. I can only imagine what you guys are going through and what you are experiencing is just gives me goose pimples every time I think about it, and why I am willing to be here on Jason's birthday, and why I am so happy to be sharing this day with you today. It's just, I'm so excited for all of you and for the new horizons that are opening up for you. I can relate to it on a very, very personal level. So, anyway, what happened with Jason is that, of course, it turned out that he was extremely bright, and that he started learning like crazy. Once I started investing the time and investing the energy, and of course I went crazy from that moment. I mean, when he did that thing with the flower, I ran to the phone and I called up Charles, and I started to cry, and I was jumping up and down, and I called Charles and I said, he can learn. This kid will learn. he's going to be okay. He's going to learn. And then I started going nuts. We started all these games and all these things. I started stimulating all of his senses. We started dumping him into boxes full of styrofoam and boxes full of rice. And there was one day when he was about 6 months old, I made this gigantic tub full of Jell-O, and I took all of his clothes off and I dumped him into this Jell-O, and you know, it was cold and it was wiggly and it got in his hair and it got up his nose and he tasted it and he loved it, and I mean anything that would awaken all of his senses, and sure enough he started reading. How's my time? And he started doing letter identification. We were playing with Scrabble pieces, and he started picking them up and he started reading them. And I said, "Oh my God, he's actually going to read!" And this was a revelation. Well, here I was working on Sesame Street, and I had a kid with Down syndrome who was breaking all the rules. This was the kid who they told me would never do anything, who would never read, who would never write, and I had the world at my doorstep, and I had the opportunity to tell the world that this was possible. Now, I want to backtrack just a little bit, because I had already been sensitized just a little bit, because I started on Sesame Street in season 2, which was actually a couple of years before Jason was born. So I had already done a little bit of disability stuff on Sesame Street, actually, before he was born. In season 2, the Little Theater of the Deaf, do we have the Little Theater of the Deaf stuff on here? Yeah, okay. In season 2, the Little Theater of the Deaf, somebody told me about the Little Theater of the Deaf and sent me out to check them out. And they were absolutely charming. I don't know if anybody in this room is old enough to remember this. I'm probably the oldest person here. I'm 74 and proud of it. So anyway, the Little Theater of the Deaf came on to the show, and I became the writer of the deaf stuff. And I got friendly with the actors from the Little Theater of the Deaf. They were great folks, and I learned to sign. And this was also helpful with Jason, because when he was a baby and we had these friends who were deaf, and I was using a lot of sign language with Jason, which helped in his communication skills, because, you know, he kind of got to know who were the deaf friends, and he was signing, you know, which, you know, helped him. Anything that would help communication and help him express his ideas, I figured was helpful. So there I was writing material for the Little Theater of the Deaf for Sesame Street. And so I also became a little bit politicized to some deaf and disability issues just from my friendship with the Theater of the Deaf kids. By the way, this is Deaf Power. Oh, you want to see a deaf joke? This is the sign for milk. That makes sense, right? This is pasteurized milk. Okay. Isn't that great? All right, let me show you I don't want to show the whole thing. Can we show just a little bit of the first clip? See what it says LT on the Little Theater of the Deaf fire engine? I don't want to show the whole thing, but I just want to show you a little bit of what we did with the Little Theater of the Deaf on Sesame Street. This is before Jason was even born, but it's a neat showing of how we brought the Theater of the Deaf people on, and it's a nice piece of inclusion of how the deaf actors and the non-deaf actors were working together just to bring the two communities together on the street of Sesame Street. This is really, really old stuff. This is season 2, 1971, I think, or 72, something like that. This is really old. Let's just show a little bit of that clip number 1.
can't hear, but, ooh,
Oh, yeah, she knows, a fire engine.
Hey, wait a minute, hold it. Linda, how do you know that that's a fire engine?
Well, for people who can't hear, fire engines have a big red light that goes around on the top.
Right.
So she couldn't hear the siren, but she saw the red light.
Oh, right on, okay.
Very good, very good.
We can make our own fire engine right here.
How?
Using our bodies.
Oh,
That's great.
yeah? How do you do that?
Okay, Ed will be the front of the truck.
Ah, I see. Nice.
Lynn will be a long hose that squirts water. Freda will be the ladder. I will be the red light that goes around on the top for people who can't hear. Joe will be the back of the truck.
I'm gonna be the chief.
Chief,
The
okay.
siren,
Get
all
in the
right?
truck, Chief.
How about you, Susan?
I want to be the dog, the Dalmatian, you know.
Dalmatian, okay, and listen, how about us? What are we gonna be? What do you wanna be?
We need fire.
Okay, all right, well, let's jump
We
on the
need some
fire engine, though.
firemen.
We need some firemen for the fire engine. Mauricio, come on, let's jump out and be a fireman, come on. You come up here. Okay, we're ready, fire chief.
Okay, that's enough. You got the idea. Okay. So you see, everybody gets in. We did several of those, and they were very, very successful. We got a tremendous amount of really wonderful mail about the inclusion of everybody on the street. And as far as I know, it was, I think, the first time on kids' television that these two groups of people were seen interacting so nicely and comfortably together. Okay, now we go forward a couple of years, and here's Jason, who's starting to do letter identification and real academic stuff. He's reading, and I have this venue where I have an opportunity to show the world a kid with Down syndrome who's 3 years old who's doing academic stuff. So I go to the producers of Sesame Street and I ask them whether it wouldn't be possible to do some letter and reading stuff with Jason. And they were very responsive and they were terrific, and they said sure. So let's show Jason D. Dog. It's very quick, but we did a whole bunch of these.
The doggy, yeah, and what doggy say? Ruff. The doggy. Very good, Jason.
That's it. That's the whole thing. 13 seconds. Yeah. We did a bunch of those. We did, S, sneaker. We did J, Jason. We did, we did a whole bunch of those. Well, the mail we got was phenomenal. We got piles of mail. Parents who said, I have a kid with Down syndrome. I never knew that a kid with Down syndrome was capable of this. I'm going to start working with my kid. We did Jason doing the entire alphabet. It was wild. And a whole lot of mail, complimenting us on just showing a kid with Down syndrome at all. And it was very, very helpful to me because it really helped me to convince the producers that we should continue to do this sort of thing. And it was really, really fabulous. So, so we continued to do a whole lot of this, over the years. And I have to tell you a story. I was telling Daniel, where are you here? Somewhere where I was saying it at breakfast this morning that I told a little story that I was giving a talk very much like this once out in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And when I came up onto the podium to speak, the person who booked me to do the talk said to me, "Do you see that guy standing in the back of the room with the white hair?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "That guy is the head of special ed of all of Fort Wayne, Indiana. And he doesn't believe that kids with Down syndrome can read. So he doesn't believe in giving kids with Down syndrome any academic education whatsoever. He doesn't put it into their curriculum." So, and I was giving this talk. So I got up and I said, in the middle of my talk, I started to yell. I said, "Don't you let anybody tell you that kids with Down syndrome can't read." I'm talking right to the guy in the back row. I said, "Don't you let anybody deny them the opportunity to learn what we know they can learn." Because it's obvious that if you don't teach people things, they won't learn them. What could be more obvious than that? You know, it's only a matter of opportunity and expectation. That's all. You teach people things, they will learn them, or we hope they will learn them. Some of them will, some of them won't. But if you don't give them the opportunity, then of course they won't learn them. Duh. So then, okay. Then I sort of went for broke. It's one thing to just show stuff. Then I said to myself, well, let's really go at it. And I said, suppose we really take this disability topic by the horns and really use the venue that we have to really teach. Because so many kids are told by their parents, don't look, don't ask, don't stare, don't point. And I say, why not? You know, let's ask, let's teach, let's tell people, let's answer their questions. Kids have a right to have their questions answered. And who teaches better than Sesame Street? So I went to the source, and I called Christopher Reeve. And I said, can we do some stuff with you about your situation? And I went and I spent an afternoon with Christopher Reeve, and I said, could we write some material for you about you and your accident and your chair? And we had a lovely afternoon, and I wrote a bit that I'm really very happy about, and I'd like to show it to you, where Chris is going to the library. And then I said to him, I'd like to use your son, where you're going to the library with your son. And he said, no, we never use our son in any media whatsoever. We don't ever show our son. And he said, why do you want to use my son? So I said, I think it's extremely important to show the audience, to show kids out there and parents and everybody, that people with disabilities, even very significant disabilities, have families who love them, that they have a normal family relationship and experience. He said, well, let me talk to my wife and I'll call you tomorrow. And he called me back and he said, you got it, you can use Will. We never use Will, but you can use Will. So I'd like to show you the bit that was on Sesame. This is not the entire thing. This is a somewhat cut down version because we don't have that much time. So let's show the Chris Reeve library bit.
3, 2.
That's Will.
Come on, Will, why can't we go? I want to get to the library.
We have to wait for my dad, though.
Will's father, Chris, is going to the library with us.
Oh, okay. But where is he?
Here he is.
Ah.
Oh.
Hiya, bud. How you doing?
Hey, Dad.
Hi.
Hi, Big Bird. Hi, Zoe. How are
Hi.
you?
Hey, Chris. I haven't seen you in a long
I
time.
know.
But you look different from the last time I saw you. Hey, I know what it is. You weren't using that wheelchair last time.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you see, I had an accident, and now I can't walk, so I use this chair to get around where I need to go.
Oh. Well, do you use your arms to push the wheels of your chair?
Well, some people use their arms for their chairs, but since my accident, I can't move my arms either, but that's okay.
But But if you can't use your arms to make your chair go, how do you make it go?
You see this thing by my chin? I do that. And watch
Yeah?
this. I can tilt.
Oh,
Oh, look at that. The chair's moving.
wow, that is really cool.
I could just sit here and take a nap.
Wow, neat. Look at that.
Up and down any way I want.
Seems to me when I saw you the last time, you didn't have that little tube there either.
Yeah, that's right, but since the accident. See, I need this tube to help me get the air I need to breathe.
Ah.
Well, I'm sorry you had an accident.
Oh, thanks, Zoe.
But it's really good that you've got that neat chair. So
Right.
you can go places and do stuff.
You bet. There's some things I can't do, but with my chair and with my family, and all my friends who help me, I can do lots and lots of great stuff. Like, don't we have a date to go to the library?
We sure do. Come on, let's go.
Okay.
Oh, gee, I hope I can keep up with you in your fancy wheelchair. I'm just a little monster.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what. You could climb aboard and I'll give you a ride to the library.
You mean it?
Sure.
Oh, boy! That's
Hey,
great.
Zoe, that looks like fun. You're gonna ride to the library.
Yeah. Okay, you comfy?
Yeah,
Hang on. Here we go. We are out of here.
okay. This is cool.
We're off to the library. La la la.
The one that's down to the Itzhak Perlman and Rafi is nice because it has, Rafi is a kid who uses a wheelchair, and it gives Rafi an opportunity to talk about some of his feelings about using a wheelchair and about his feelings about other kids. Let's take a look at Rafi, Itzhak Perlman and Rafi and Big Bird. You see that one, number 7?
Cheers.
That's it.
Cheers.
Good.
It's a good, I had a good birdseed hot dog, too.
Yeah, that mustard keeps falling off.
Say, could I ask you guys something? Well, I noticed that both of you have a few problems getting around. How come? What happened?
I got spinal bifida. You know what that is?
Gee, I can't even say it.
Yeah.
Well, that was something I was born with.
Oh, gee. How about you, Mr. Perlman?
Well, I had polio when I was 4 years old, and that was before the vaccine was invented. And so right now, kids are lucky because when they go to the doctor, they usually give them this vaccine and they can't get polio anymore. So it's very important that they take this vaccine.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Gee, does it make you sad any times when you see others dancing and running races and doing stuff like that, huh?
Yeah, sometimes. But in my chair, I can do almost anything they can do. I can dance, I could race, I can do almost anything.
Hey, that's great.
Wonderful. Well, you know, I usually walk with crutches, you know, and they help me out. It's a little slow, but, you know, I can get places, and sometimes I even can play games. When I was much younger, I used to play soccer, and they used to like to get me to play goalie because I had my crutches plus my legs, so I could stop any ball. You know, you want to hear a secret?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I really, really hate?
What?
Most of anything. I hate steps.
Steps?
Yeah. Have you ever noticed you hate steps?
I hate steps.
It's difficult. I find it's difficult to get along. You know, how is it? Can you get along in a wheelchair and steps, or is it difficult? Yeah, very difficult. I find that, you know, every place you try to go, there are steps. You know, go to the bathroom, there are steps sometimes. You go to a library, or you go to a concert hall, you're always confronted with steps. You know, it's a real pain.
Gee. Well, that was a nice lunch, guys.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Well, shall we take a walk?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
would have thought of that. Hey, wait for me, guys.
Now, in '06, Emily has something called Larson syndrome. I don't know if you know about Larson syndrome. And she explains very clearly herself about the use of her leg braces and her crutches. So let's look at 6. And it's nice because she's very upfront about it, and she's got a really terrific attitude.
I found my clarinet back there.
You did? Oh, that's great. Good. Emily, let me introduce you to your first friend on Sesame Street, Big Bird.
Big Bird?
Yeah.
That makes sense. You are one big bird. I'm Emily.
Oh, hi, Emily. Hey, you want to go meet some new people who live on Sesame Street? Want to see them? Want to meet people?
Sure.
Okay, hey, what's that thing?
It's a walker. I use it to help me walk.
Oh, how come?
Well, I was born with something that makes my legs not work too well. See these braces on my legs?
Uh-huh.
They make my legs strong enough for me to stand up and walk. With the braces and the walker, I can really move.
Wow, okay then. Come on and I'll show you Sesame Street. Whoa, hey, wait for me. Oh, she's fast.
The Itzhak Perlman Easy Hard piece is a little nugget which has been replayed over and over again. It's just a little tiny vignette, but it really says it. Let's do 8, Easy Hard, and then we'll talk some more.
Those steps. You know, some things that are really easy for you are real hard for me.
Yeah, but some things are easy for you that are hard for me.
I kind of lost track of my time. How am I doing? We're close? Okay. So anyway, there was recently another show that I did that I don't have a clip on, was a show that I did about a service dog coming to Sesame Street. That was a lot of fun, about a dog who comes to Sesame Street looking for work. And he's interested in, he tries to get a job at folding clothes at the laundromat, and he finds that his paws are not well suited for that kind of work. And he tries to get a job sweeping up at Hooper's store, and his paws are not well suited for that either. And then he observes a real dog. This is a Muppet dog. And then he observes a real dog being trained as a service dog, and he gets very intrigued with that. And so the rest of the show really shows step by step by step all the kinds of things that a service dog can be trained for. And it really demonstrates in a very clear kind of way all the kinds of things that service dogs do. And I thought that was a really successful show. I was really pleased with the way that one came out. So I'm here to tell you that the producers and all of the people at Sesame are very supportive of all the advocacy stuff that I've been doing over the last 40-odd years. And every time I come up with a new idea, they're very supportive of that. Unfortunately, I don't write as many shows as I used to, and so I have to keep kind of banging away, saying, please let me do another one, and when I do, they're in general very supportive of my efforts to do that. So I want to tell you that I'm going to continue to do that as long as I'm there, and I want to keep working at Sesame Street as long as they'll have me. And we're now just getting started on preparing season 46, believe it or not. Sesame Street is alive and pretty well, I think. And so we're going to get started again in a couple of weeks, getting ready to start work on the new season, and I'm still in there. So we get a lot of input, and people are always, asking me, why don't you do this, why don't you do that? And there's a lot of input on, why aren't you showing more things like showing more autism and stuff like that on the show, and autism, there's a lot of autism out in the community and stuff like that, but autism is a thing that is very difficult to portray in a physical way that our 2- and 3-year-old audience will be able to perceive and understand. And I'll tell you my personal philosophy about that. And that is, my idea is that I want to let kids know, this is what I believe, that it's okay to be who you are, that it's okay to be whoever you are, and if you are different in one way or another way or another way or another way, that's got to be okay. And if your differentness turns out to be autism, or turns out to be Down syndrome, or turns out to be Rett syndrome, or turns out to be an amputee, or turns out to have had a stroke, or turns out to be blind, or turns out to be deaf, it shouldn't matter. What's important is that it has to be okay to be who you are. And that's what I'm trying to communicate in any one of these things, is that it's okay that the specificness of your particular diagnosis is less important than who you are as an individual person and your entitlement to be who you are. See, what happened in my life, and I'll share with you my particular journey, was that Jason became so bright, and he was reading so early, and he was such a superstar, he was so terrific, that I thought I had licked it. I thought, this is no big deal. This kid is terrific. He's so smart, that I thought there was nothing to this. And then at about age 8, the whole world caught up to him and passed him by, and I had a whole new crash. When he was about 8, I discovered that I had a kid with a developmental disability, and that I had to deal all over again with the fact that I had a kid with a disability. I had a whole new crash, and I had to start all over again. And I realized that I was dealing with disability. I had to start again and realize that I was a member of this community, and that I had to decide, is your kid worthwhile? Is your kid only worthwhile if he's a superstar? That can't be right. That can't be right. Your kid can't only be worthwhile if he's the brightest of this community. That can't be right. Your kid has to be okay no matter who he is, or she is, in this case, no matter who she is. Your kid has to be worthwhile no matter what. No matter what level, no matter how he or she is functioning, every single one of our kids is worthwhile and is a person worth fighting for, worth believing in and worth loving. And I had to start all over again to the point where I believed that in my innermost soul. So welcome to Holland. I have come up with a whole new analogy. And that is, and it's called, for lack of a better name, we're all in the same boat, okay? So we're all in this boat. We're all in this boat, all of us, you and me and all of us. We're all in this boat together, okay? And it doesn't matter if you're sitting in the front of the boat or the back of the boat, no matter where your kid is functioning or what your kid is doing, all of us are in this boat together. If you're in the front of the boat, the back of the boat, and most of us are in the middle of the boat someplace, okay? And look, we are never going to catch up to that other boat, the boat that has the 24-hour margaritas and the salsa dancing on the uppermost deck and forget that other boat. We are in the boat together, and if we look down, we got oars at our feet, and if we all row together, we can make our boat go and go faster. We can get places, we can accomplish things, we can make things happen for our kids. If we row together, we'll get wind in our hair, we can sing a rowing song together, but we are all together in this boat, and I am in there with you, believe it, and that's my new message to you. Anyway, that's the new thing. So I want to end up by playing you a song that Jason and I actually wrote together, which is the last thing on here, and it kind of encapsulates everything. Jason and I wrote this lyric together for Sesame Street, and it's a little bit of everything, and it kind of says it. So let's play Count Me In, because that's what it's all about.